and welcome to Forging Resilience, exploring for a different perspective on strength and leadership. Join me as we discuss experiences and stories with guests to help gain fresh insights around challenge, success, and leadership. Today on Forging Resilience, we're joined by Tom Burgess. Tom is currently building, delivering, and steering Save a Warrior UK, which is a life-saving peer-led suicide prevention program, helping veterans and first responders overcome post-traumatic stress and adverse childhood trauma experiences. Tom, mate, it's an absolute pleasure to be sat opposite you on the screen today. Thanks for being here.
It's good to see you, mate, and thanks for the invitation.
No worries, it's my absolute pleasure. I had the pleasure of attending one of your cohorts, your events, with the aim of learning about myself, and that I did. And it was a life-changing experience yet again to have my story laid out in front of me and get once again to separate myself from so many small elements of my story, which was gently holding me back, although life was normal. So to get to interview, mate, and listen to a bit of your story is going to be incredibly valuable for listeners. So run us through, Tom, what's relevant for your story, buddy.
It's I watched you. I was there with you for those 72 hours, and the guy that walked in was not the guy that walked out. And I can say that for myself, because I attended the program for me back in July of 2023, and under the story that I was going over for a recce to bring it back to the UK with the help of Adam Gornell, and walking in the front door, as it were, the gates of Warrior Village in Ohio, then realizing actually there's a lot that I need to work through myself, and that was the reason why I was there for my life. I mean, where do you start? Really, there's a story that led me to those gates. I'm going for a recce to bring it to the UK. I knew that there was something that happened, and there was a heavy weight of denial. Like I couldn't verbalize what that thing was, because to speak out loud made it real again. And so I just stuffed it down for the longest time of my life, and it didn't happen. Just running that that trail of life, and denying it ever happened. But it's not been a terrible life. I'll say that there have been a couple of peak moments of that's pretty awful. But in general, I've led a great life up to now, with some fantastic people and a beautiful wife to accompany me on this next leg of life as well. So yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for every single second I've had, the good and the bad.
Yeah, love it, mate. So, well, if I'm right in understanding, when you went to Idaho, was it? Sorry. Ohio, sorry. Idaho, that you didn't really think you were there for you. It's more about taking the concept, understanding it, and bringing it back.
That's what I was telling myself.
Okay.
So one of the, if someone was to ask you what Save a Warrior is, for me personally, it's getting men honest. And for that's absolutely what it did for me. It got me honest about the stories I'd been telling myself in my life, to just be able to be with daily life and justify who I was or thought I was as a man. what does that mean? It means that I was already in awareness that Adam and I we wanted to bring Sabre Warrior to the UK, and that's how I got introduced to Adam in the first place. He laid on a webinar. He's the ambassador for SOAR in the US. Laid on a webinar in the UK. I saw that webinar, and that was it. Our trajectories then matched, and have led to this point here. Originally, I was the marketing guy. I was going to take some pictures for Adam's podcast and so on and so forth. But the more and more I learnt about SOAR, the more and more I became closer to this pathway that Adam was bringing to me. I realised actually there's a lot of this that kind of like makes sense. And Adam did a brilliant job of not giving the game away. He showed me like, yeah, there's this thing, and it's Sabre Warrior and suicide prevention, and he gave me just enough to keep the curiosity and the movement towards it, but he didn't give the game away once. So, and that there, I think, added to the power of that first 5 minutes of me walking through the door. Because if I'd have known, and knowing what you know about the flutter and leading up to that threshold moment, if you knew what was on the other side, that the delivery wouldn't have been as powerful, So I walked into the doorway, and it's almost like I felt this gentle hand on my shoulder, and I've got you. You're all right. You're in the right place. This is exactly where you need to be. Right now is where we're gonna deal with that thing. And that's when the tubes turned on, and I absolutely lost control of the control valve of crying. It just came out like non-stop tears just flowing out. And whilst it wasn't like hysterical tears, uncontrollable, it was just flowing. And I was able to hold that conversation and be with that. And I knew that I was in good company. Boys don't cry, et cetera, et cetera. You're a man, you don't cry. All of these social norms or expected things that a man should be. I was in company of, nearly 20 other people in that room, and I wasn't the only one. Like even the instructors were just showing that. They were showing us, me, a part of me anyway, that hadn't been able to be there ever, because it'd been stuffed away. Showing me how to be okay with that level of emotion and not be finger wagged or told, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not what big boys do. So it was a powerful moment. And my trip over, to the US, it wasn't just driving to Bedfordshire. There was a lot of time for me to sit there and think, and I had a notebook, and I was like, okay, I need to remember the props and all of this. And I was so involved in my own lie. I was so involved in my own lie and denial that I absolutely knew that's what's going on. And I put, I think, a LinkedIn video, and I've not taken it down because it's part of the journey. It's part of the fingerprint of my movement through it. And I'm there, and I'm saying the words, and I'm on a recce, I'm going to bring this thing back. And I'm like, I've got to get the likes. I've got to build up this audience. Da, 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 da. Wow. How much of a slap in the face reality was for me at that exact moment when Jake Clark, in his best English accent, goes, buddy, this is not going to go your way. And I'm like, oh, that's it. You got me. But and I'd never listened. I've never listened to anything not in all the patrols, all of the orders, all of the things, all of the important things in life. I've never listened to anything as intently as that 72-hour container. Like, word for word, it all went in. And I for the first time, it felt like in the first time of my life, I shut this and I opened these and I took a few notes, but it just landed, every single word. And when there was a conversation going on between two people over there, I didn't interrupt. I didn't ask questions. I wasn't curious. I just listened, and I put me into that place. I put me in the pathway of that conversation and made it mean something for me and took me away from that. And I connected the dots in the wisdom that was being passed between two people over there. Oh, that sounds familiar. Okay, that happened. Yeah. Tube.
Yeah. Love it, mate. I think there's so many things there, Tom. There's so many things. I think the first thing I'd having gone through the experience, what came up for me was denial. I don't need to be here because I'm not suicidal, which I'm not. Never have been. However, Adam and yourself have got a wisdom about you to know that it's not just about that. There's so much power in learning about ourselves in different scenarios. And yeah, I 100% didn't want to be there. But yeah, I know my calling was to be there in that moment. Something you told me on our first call was that, doing it for these lads and their kids and their kids' kids. And that brought me to tears. And I must say, when I walked across the threshold, I couldn't stop shaking or sweating. I knew full well what was coming, and I didn't want to look. And I even spoke about that. I don't want to be the first one. I'll be the first one, but I don't want to be. Yeah. So it's interesting how we've all got different experiences there. But mate, you said something about the stories that you're telling yourself about you that just been stuffed down. What were some of those stories, and what led you to create those, or at least share part of what led you to create those stories?
I've always felt worthless. I've never valued my life. I've never felt like I fitted in, I belonged, never felt listened to. I didn't feel seen. I always felt like I was on the peripheral of conversation, things, parties.
Me too.
I just didn't feel like I clicked into the puzzle of life. My piece was just a bit gnarly around the edges, and it didn't fit. It had to be rammed. I felt like I had to ram myself in there to be. And some of those stories sounded like being the life and soul of the party, who was the first to get drunk, but the last to leave the dance floor. I would always be the one trying to lubricate the party to get people into a good place, the feeder, to kind of bring the party alive, like get the party going. And it was great and fun. 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, that's great. But when you're doing it as a 32, 33, 34-year-old guy, who it's now no longer a social drinking habit, it's a habit, it's an addiction to maybe not so much the liquid that I'm ingesting, but I cannot go out and do that without having done that. It's the process of getting blind drunk early on. That was the thing that I felt like I needed to do. I'm an alcoholic. I have been an alcoholic since the very first drink I picked up. And that's something that through going to meetings and having conversations in the anonymous space, I now know that I have an allergy to alcohol. But I know that through my learning through SOAR, that's not the thing. That's a symptom of, or that's one area of this movement around a process that, and I hate the word coping mechanism, but it became a mechanism in which I could escape away from the thing that was always one step behind me, following me through. I had to be drunk to be the life and soul of the party, because I didn't want people to see the scared, lonely, bullied, inadequate feeling of little Tom that had been there following me all along and observing all of that going on. And that feeling of those feelings were justified because, in childhood I was bullied. I was cast aside. I was never picked for the football team. I was beaten up. I did have feces rubbed over my blazer. I was punched. I was kicked. I was chased. I did have my stuff stolen. I was told I was worthless. All of that. And when that happens enough, you tend to start to believe it. And that followed me. So I made the decision to join the military. So I'm going to join the military. I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to prove them wrong. It kind of just followed me in, because guess what? It was how I was being that was kind of causing all of this stuff to happen in the first place. And the military gave me full permission to go out on a Tuesday night at Sailors nightclub in Newquay and get wrecked, because that's what everyone else was doing. So I fitted into that really well. And my addiction that I already had followed me in, and it just seed in the ground, watered with vodka Red Bull, and it just grew into what it is now. But I've been sober for, I think, 2.5 years. I've lost count on the days. I'm not counting anymore. It's not a thing. I'll never drink again, because I don't need to be that guy. Don't need to be that guy anymore.
I'm very curious, Tom, around your use of language of "I'm an alcoholic." Could you explain that to me? Because for me, it sounds like you were, and you've not touched a drop, which would, from my ignorance, indicate that you are no longer. But I'm curious your choice of words there, mate.
Yeah, which is a really good look, and something that came very much bubbling up to the surface in the Christmas that we've just been through, 2024. Because I was like, I'm good. I am like, I haven't got a problem with alcohol. I can have a zero Guinness. I'd even tried like 0% wine. I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't have this need to keep drinking it. I'm not chasing that high, that feeling. I could have a glass of champagne at New Year's Eve. I could have a glass of champagne with Christmas dinner. And I had this internal conversation with the guy that my internal voices. We all have them, by the way. It's not just me.
Definitely.
And I was like, and I caught myself. Hang on a minute. You quit drinking because you couldn't stop drinking. What makes you think you're different now? What's changed? And apart from you just being away from it for a period of time. The word alcoholic, it's almost like it's a lifelong association and a stamp, and that's because I have an allergy to alcohol. And that sounds a really weird thing. It's kind of hard for me to explain. But I've got a tolerance to it that I can keep drinking. And at the height of my drinking career, it just wasn't having any effect on me. I was drunk, but I could hold a conversation. I could move. I could walk. I could work. I could drive. I could operate machinery. I was drunk, but I could. Doesn't make any of that right. But it was, and that's the danger element of it with me. And I have that awareness of that now. So Christmas Day, I'm with family in South London, and a family member was there, and he says, "Oh, I've got a meeting at 7." I went, "On Christmas Day, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, it's AA. I'm going to an AA meeting." And I was like, wow, I knew he'd quit drinking, and I knew he went to these meetings. But I was like, mate, do you mind if I come? I'm dealing with something right now. I'm going through something, and I think it'd just be a really positive thing for me to just affirm and say, I'm stepping away from that fully. By this point, it's 2.5 years I've been sober. So I walked into my first AA meeting on Christmas Day, 2024. Having been sober for over 2 years, kind of feeling like a little bit of a fraud, but knowing I was in the right place. I was, if I had started drinking socially there, it might have been great over Christmas. It might have even been great for my birthday in mid-January. But around about now, I would have definitely have drunk at least every day or every other day. A bottle of wine could have crept into the thing, and I would have woken up hungover, shameful. Deny it, don't worry, it's okay. You're not bad. You're not that bad yet. You're not hiding booze yet. You're not lying about it. You're not driving from London to Hampshire to come home. You're not stopping at the off license 2 minutes out from home to get a bottle of wine and a couple of beers to then walk in the house with a bottle of beer to disguise that smell. You're not lying. You're not there yet. But that's the start. If you don't want to get drunk, don't have the first drink. It's not the 13th one that gets you, it's the first one. So I now have to have that level of awareness that if I have one drink, it's the okay, we're back to zero. We're starting again, and it genuinely isn't a thing for me anymore. But I have to have that level of awareness of it.
So, did you learn that on Christmas Day, 2024, at 7:00 in the AA meeting?
Through a group setting. And an open share of vulnerability from a man that I've known some time, because he's now a family connection I'm married into. The language that was used and thrown around that room was the first time I've heard that language or those words in that order. Allergy to alcohol. I don't really get that, but I'll lean in. An allergy to it. And then I asked him at the end, I said, mate, I don't understand the terminology on that. What do you mean? He goes, have you got the blue book? Mate, no idea. No, what's that? And he went and grabbed one and said, it's a tenner. Do you want it? And I was like, of course I do. Bang. And I've been reading this book 2 or 3 pages a day. I'm on my second pass of it now. And it explains it really well. But on that exact day, on Christmas Day, there was a transformation of awareness that I didn't have beforehand. And whilst it was a success and a bloody miracle that I'd made it that far sober, I now went, okay, I can never drink again. And this is why. And learning that there on that day with those people, and hearing their stories as well of this is my third. Oh, this is my third time back in AA. I've been sober 3 months, and I've been an alcoholic for about 10, 15 years. And this is their third relapse recovery. And I was doing really well. I was sober for 2.5 years, and one thing happened, and I had one drink, and that was it, game over. And I was just like, that's where I'm at. I got that muscle memory. I got that strength. I'm okay. I'm resilient. I'm okay. I can have one. And I caught myself there. I knew I was coming into that bit. I'm comfortable now. It's all right. Everything's going to be okay. There. No. So I'm incredibly grateful and fortunate, and that I could go into that room with that guy. Thank you. And B, found a new community that I meet with every Wednesday, and I go to my local meeting here in Fareham.
Sounds like quite the Christmas gift, buddy.
Yeah, and it didn't have to wrap it, and he made me pay for it as well. But it was a good gift, and he's a good guy, and I'm in awe of his journey to where he is now. So well done, mate.
What would you consider as one of the most important things that you've learned, or the grounding factor for yourself since you've learned to face those stories and process all those things that you have been able to process, Tom?
Can you repackage that one for me?
Yeah.
How we get there?
Maybe I'll start with a little story, and I'm going to kind of lead you into it, but it's half of what we decided one of the pillars is going to be on this conversation is. So let's talk about something that happened to me just last night with my daughter, and this isn't the first time I've talked about this on this podcast. So, as most people know, I'm a father of two. I love my kids to bits, and I learn so much through them. They show me parts of myself that I still need to allow and things that I need to let go of. And when I don't, it comes up in the form of anger, which is really a fear of what are people going to think if my kids can't behave, or how can I control them now if they're only 9? Notice the words I'm using, control. They're only 8 and 9. What's it going to be like when they're 15, 16, 19, 20, 25? So one of the biggest things that I've learned for myself, and this got shown to me last night, was the ability to be kind to myself, compassionate. Last night, whilst my daughter had the biggest meltdown I've ever seen her have, I could watch my reaction that wanted to respond with compassion, and in turn, I was able just to be there next to her. It's almost bringing me to tears now. Just to be there next to her, to let her go through her process, and I was waiting with compassion the other side of it.
Good tee up.
Yeah, so for me, one of the most important things that I've learned about myself is the ability to be kind. And I used to think that was so weak. Love, compassion, it's all bollocks. But for me, it's really quite the opposite. So I'm curious, in your process of change and in your journey, what was one of the biggest thing that you come back to, or that you hold close to you, or that you're reminded of in those moments of challenge or noise or drift?
In compassion there, I have learned to be more gentle with myself. One of the biggest, one of the 4 maxims of the Stable Warrior is to focus on if you really want to do good for others, focus on your own healing, or words to that effect. I'm still trying to get that get the flow down right on the exact wording. But I'm more compassionate with myself around everything I do. I'm trying to. So you don't try because you only do or you don't. But I am being more awareness of softening and being gentle around my own internal monologue, my thoughts, my feelings, my words, the way I move. I used to be like quick, direct move, purpose, efficient. It's more just a bit of a saunter now through life. But my wife, Kate, when we bicker, when something happens, I'm very quick to realise maybe I wasn't as gentle as I could have been, and maybe what's being presented here is not the thing. I see it as a pragmatic domino effect. Well, that's the first domino that went over. That's the problem. That's what we need to rectify. But there's been 10 dominoes that have gone over in that effect. And actually, the thing that's most upset my wife is domino 4, where I've said something that was not nice. Not soft, not loving, not kind, not gentle. And that's what she's upset on. But it's the first domino for me. So I have to have more awareness in that, and I'm growing into it daily. Just in having this conversation now, we're doing the work. I'm bringing that into okay. Thanks for the lesson, mate, and thanks for the refresher, the revision period on where I want to be in life. But that compassionate piece was, the military is not a very compassionate environment. Let's say that. And what a weird place it would be if it was.
I was just going to say that this could be.
What a weird place it would be.
We could go down that rabbit hole if you want, but yeah.
Yeah. SAC Burgess, what? Why are you crying, mate? Like, what's happened? Oh, a rocket came in and it's killed 3 of my mates, Corporal, and I'm really sad. Oh, no, they're there, mate. They're there. Now that's what kind of the child adult, that compassionate thing. That's kind of, all right. It's a little bit jovial. True story, by the way. A little bit jovial and a little bit sort of like tongue in cheek, but that leader could have shown a little bit more compassion and seen that someone wasn't coping very well with the thing that's just happened. A rocket landed, it killed 3 of my friends. I came to the realization that only 2 weeks before I was in that bed space sleeping where the rocket landed. I was like, fuck, I'm alive. I should be dead. I was going through so much. He didn't know that. He didn't know what was going on for me internally. And that's the dangerous thing in life. We bounce around as humans. We never know what's going on for someone inside their own head, right? And that's where the most damage can happen with the slightest word. And I remember every word he said. And he sent me to the billets, to the accommodation, to get me away from the other guys, because he felt that how I was acting, crying, sad, upset, realising that this thing was happening, wasn't good for them then, Great for the military, not good for that little Tom that was right there. He's always been there. So, compassion, to weave that back onto where we are and what we're talking about here. I am more aware of that compassion, and I start with me, and I give myself permission to feel, to be who I am, and not fit into the mold of what the zeitgeist and the people want me, and walk into meetings with, the prep call we had on this whilst I'm driving. I was going to meet someone that was a big player, in this world of charity and fundraising and all of that. And I was like, I wasn't being compassionate in my thoughts. I was like, who am I to be going into this room here and have that conversation with that guy? You know, you're just called like retired Corporal Tom. And I was giving myself some really good managerial talk, right? And he dropped a message at me in a voice chat. And you had no idea that that's what I was going through internally, that exact moment. But it landed and it caught me. And I was like, tubes on, driving the car, like, well done, mate. Thank you. Like, there you are again. And it reminded me to soften up and be more compassionate with myself right there, that exact moment. Which in that exact moment is when I said, this is what I think we should talk about. You know, there's no coincidence there. Compassion. And I think through Save a Warrior, you know, what people may think compassion looks like on the other side of our gate is, we know it was hard, mate. Like, you know, that you know yourself, there's none of that. There's no soothing, there's no comforting, there's no hold. There's a hug, yes, but there's no what you think might be on the other side of a suicide prevention program. There's none of that. It's really, compassion is letting someone go and letting them absolutely be with whatever's coming up, and that flood of emotion that's coming out, and I see that, and it's not like a death stare, but just holding their gaze and letting them know that I'm witnessing this. You're in good company. That there was, you know, the first time I saw and felt that, it was like, I've got goosebumps now thinking about it. It's something that cannot really truly be accurately described in language, in words. It's something you've got to think, experience and feel. And that's the special sauce, you know, right there. The secret sprinkling of flavour in the 12 ingredients of special KFC recipe, whatever. But it's ruthlessly compassionate, Save a Warrior, and also some of the words that are spoken are not what the person wants to hear. It's what needs to be said, and that's something big as well. And sometimes it doesn't land because there's this, you can't say that to me, how dare you, or I'm not saying that's what's happened, but that's what could happen in the future, and I have awareness about that. So I need to have that awareness that that's a possibility in the future, and when that happens, I need to go, I've been here before in my brain, I've made this real in the past, and this is how I think I should handle it, and just witness what that is coming back and reflect the leadership and the corporal that could have been that compassionate guy. And I'm kind of weaving in and out of timeline here, but just got to show how I feel the best. My declaration was leader, husband, father, leader, love. All right, my declarations. And father, I think, comes into how I should be in that moment for that when it comes up in the future. And in doing that now, I'm making that a reality in my own head. And if I keep thinking of being with it, when it happens, I've already done the reps in my brain, and it'll happen. I won't even have to think about it. You know, I think they call that quantum thinking. I don't know, but and I'm going well out of my comfort zone on conversation there, but I'm reading into it, Adam will tell you a lot more about that one than I will. But
I've spoken to that boy. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point there, Tom. Again, so many things to go into, but I think I'll say this first one, mainly because I don't want to. But yeah, I felt that father-like quality very early on, hence the reason I pulled you aside and just hugged you, because that's what I felt I needed, and that was coming from you, and in that moment, you know. So yeah, for me, and there's no coincidence that I learned a lot of things about myself and my childhood and my parents. Again, and yeah, there's no doubt that little Ron in that moment needed a hug from what he felt was his father. So in that moment, that was you, mate.
I don't think I was ready for. I don't think I was ready for fatherhood pre-Saw. I really don't think that the actions, the way I was, how I was interacting and reacting to things, environment, people, substance, I wasn't fit to be father. I know that, and I'm okay with that. And I also know that I, for many years, have been trying to become a father. Infertility is a word that's in and around my world. And I've been incredibly struggle for the word on this one, but I should, why not? I've done everything right. Don't you know how hard I've worked? All of it. I deserve this, right? Sounds like a racket. Feels like that one, certainly, because that veneer I was putting on, and I'm ready for this. At exactly the same time, I'm hiding the fact that I'm secret drinking and lying and doing all of this. And this stems back to my first marriage as well. For the longest time, since 22 years of age, I've been on this infertility path and trying to become a father. It's a big thing. It really is. And my cohort in Ohio, the first cohort saw, guess what? It's for the men. There's something for me coming out of this as well. I look into those flames, I look into that, and I write that note, and I do those things, I say those words, because I've got to do this stuff as well. I'm a knight. There's no surprise why I'm in that room doing that work. Because that's the life I've lived up to that point, and they are the lessons that I can impart over. I hope. So maybe, just maybe, he's got one hell of a plan, isn't he? I'm not a father because maybe this is where I need to be. Try explaining that to someone that I'm, partnered with in life. I still desperately want to be a father and have my own child and raise my family. I have the awareness now to know that I can be compassionate, I can be loving, I can be softer, I can be more gentle and guiding to myself, which in turn mirrors and reflects and shows my boy or girl in the future. That's how you should be. That's how you do it. Instead of the opposite.
Yeah. There's a big part of me in terms of compassion that again resonated with what you've talked about there, Tom, and the softening. It's something you talked about right at the beginning as well. I find warm tears falling from my eyes a lot more frequently. A girl that I know is an acupuncturist. I think that's the way you say it. She does acupuncture. There you go. I did my first session a couple of months ago, and that was a fascinating experience. I was led there with these needles in me thinking, am I even doing this right? What am I meant to feel? And then again, I caught that, and I can be compassionate on myself. It's fine. This is what it's meant to be for you. Just focus on being present. And a few minutes later, when I did, boom, on came the waterworks. And I explained that to her, and she said to me, looking me directly into the eyes and then into my soul, a bit like certain people I know do, and said, "Oh, I'm not surprised. That's just the layers of your heart literally melting to reveal the heart," which is what I'm hearing in your words and what you're explaining there. The crust that we form to protect ourselves just gently melting away.
And I think the further down this path I'm getting, the closer to the end of it all, the more and more comfortable. Well, the more and more tests and challenges I'm getting along the way. Okay, someone outside of Saul, who I hold quite in high regard, mentor, you can call it mentor, said that now you're doing his work, don't be surprised when the devil comes knocking. And at the time I was like, I don't get that, but thank you for the advice. And I get it. I get it now. Because and it's not like the devil comes knocking to like completely blow things out of the water. It's temptation. It's to choose the easy route and to not go down that path, because that's the hard route, but there's more value in it, and it's not value for me per se. It's the value for everyone else that's on that journey. I have to be aware of the fact that this is good. It's costing. It's costing. Wow, here we go. There's a chuck-free conversation going on here, right? Mm-hmm. There is a cost. I pay it gladly. I pay it gladly because I get to witness transformation in others. That's a really hard thing to explain to your loved ones when it's costing them as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the financial piece and like not having money or the cars and all of that stuff. That's just material things. It's time. It is costing that time. I know I won't be doing this forever. This is a period. This is a block of time in this. Out of the 100% I have, this is probably 10% of it. I've already done 30% of it. This is a 10% right now. I'm 40. I won't be doing it forever. I pay this block of time over gladly, knowing that when we get it to a point where I can and Adam can step away completely and the shield's propped up by its own mechanics and the people in it, we go, Adam, we did a thing. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful thing? It's moving forward on its own, and it's completely self-lubricating, and men are coming in one side and women are coming in one side and they're coming out the other, and then turning back in service to prop up this thing. We did that. Wow. And at that point, I'll just switch fire on to the next big task. Right, what other problem is there that I can solve? And maybe the awareness is trying to do that now. As quickly as possible, get it to that position where it's financially stable. Men and women are now going through the gates and coming out the other side, and that operational process is self-sustaining. If I can get there as quickly as possible so that I don't have to be there, that's the win. And it's having that awareness.
So if somebody was to be listening who wanted to support Saul, what sort of things would be valuable for you, mate?
There are a number of things, and the first thing I'll say is let's start a conversation. Just learn about us, be with us. It's not, pound coins are what the society now classes as, a value. There are more things. There are things that are more valuable than that pound coin to us. And we are an organisation that has to prop up people and support people and pay their way and buy things, items. I mean, these things cost money. So, you can buy us a coffee, £3 coffee on a monthly subscription. If that's what it is, that's what it is. You can get your business to offset some tax, and it comes to us. There's a mechanism for that. You can signpost people to us that need our help. Like that's it. The more people that come through the gates, the more people that then can come back in service of it. That's a thing as well. You could buy a couple of chairs that are about to go in the Save a Warrior community co-working space in Fareham, which I'm staring at the keys right there on that desk. Got them in our hand. They're right there. The plan is set. The social media machine is starting to go. The awareness is going on that. The people are starting to go, oh, could I come to that? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can. Absolutely. There's a launch party that's about to go out. And that there are, I hope, through a lovely combination of the good work through Save a Warrior and Adam and our entrepreneurial spirit, if you want to call it anything. The two of them can work together, and through the co-working space, I believe that can prop up 100% of the output for Save a Warrior. If we can get that right and pop up a few of those around, the space around the UK, and even virtually, who knows? But it's growing that community in its simplest form. That's all it is. We're growing a community that is aware of this greater good through what we're doing there. And although it's military, police, and fire service, those three uniforms that will come through, it's their spouse, their children, their work environment, it's their drinking buddies, it's their gym buddies, it's their friends, their neighbours. It's those people that will actually benefit from that person going through the program. In a sort of twist, it's those ripples away from that one person. We're all onions, and those layers around us. The people around them will benefit as well, unknowingly. Oh wow, Tom's in a really good spot. He's doing all of this stuff, and he's a pleasure to be around. And he's not drunk all the time, and he's working really well, and he's bringing it. He's doing all of this stuff, whatever the thing is. But it's those generational ripples out from that person that comes through and sits on that seat. There's probably 7,000 people sitting on that one seat at that one time, if you look down the timeline. And they're the KPIs that we'll never be able to measure. They're the people that will be in existence because of that one thing. And that's why I sacrifice this time gladly. I don't need this. I am in service of 100% to this thing, at the cost of things that I'm very aware of.
Well, thank you for that, mate. Thank you for your service. Tom, it feels like quite a good place to start wrapping it up, mate, but I'm always keen to ask I guess, what would be one message that you would like to leave listeners, or even yourself, or something that we've not talked about that you feel compelled to mention?
Keep going, mate. Keep going. All right. You're doing a great job. And I see you, and I'm in awe of everything that you've accomplished so far. And I see everything that you're about to accomplish in the future. Just keep going. Well done.
That's for all of us, by the way. But thank you, Tom. I appreciate that, buddy.
Yes, it is. It is. I see you. And that there is the thing. Is I see you. You know that, and to be seen and to feel that friendship and that contact and know that we're not alone. That's important.
It's massive. So, it's absolutely massive. It's massive. And for me, that's something that summarizes that experience of those 72 hours is that connection through compassion, because the stories don't matter. People very, very quickly got the ability to see the person's heart, and really what's in there is love, although it might be very wrapped up or slightly trapped, or slightly dismissed. It is there, and by the end of that experience, you see it. You see it. So yeah, Tom, where can people find out a bit more about yourself or Save a Warrior, mate, if they're interested in starting that conversation, as you said?
Thank you. You can email me directly, thomas@saveawarrioruk.org. That will come straight to me. If you want to have a little bit more of a peripheral look and then have that contact, just search Save a Warrior UK on your search engine, will come up, and just explore our website. There's a little bit of work you need to do to have a read around all of the web pages. There's a lot of content on there, but do or seek out someone that's sat the seat and ask them questions. Because they'll tell you their version of it as well, and maybe that'll land for them as much as for you.
Yeah. Tom, mate, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for spending the afternoon chatting to me, buddy. It means a great deal. I'm so chuffed I got to meet you in person and give you that hug and look you in the eye and tell you I love you, and for all that you are doing, all who you are being as well. So thank you, mate. I see you.
Pleasure, man. Thank you. Cheers.